Getting some text messages on the MyPillow text line about this latest investment effort of George Soros, who appears to be trying to buy influence in the world of media, which could essentially affect the radio station that you're listening to today. Now, there are a lot of different theories here on what George Soros is doing. Soros Fund Management, which is controlled by Open Society Foundations, has made multiple high-profile media acquisitions over the past couple of years, according to the Daily Mail, which is this is where I'm reading the article from. But there's been a lot of reporting on the Soros Fund purchasing shares of radio stations, companies, other media type companies, companies who host podcasts, promote podcasts. According to sources who are familiar and spoke with Semaphore, that they're in discussions to purchase even more beyond what they purchased up to this point. Roughly 1/3 of all media consumed in the U.S. is in the form of audio, whether it's radio or podcast. Podcasts are growing tremendously. By the way, let me take this moment to ask you to join me on my podcast each day, Just the Truth, Monday through Friday. Just to go to joeyhudson.com, or you can text Joey on our MyPillow text line, 800-655-6453. Just text my name, Joey, and I'll send you a link to it. But go to joeyhudson.com and click Connect with Joey, because I'd love to have you join me each weekday on Just the Truth. Podcasts have become very widespread. A lot of people listen to podcasts. A lot of people listen to audio as well in various forms, sitting at their computers. And obviously, radio in your cars primarily is the most popular way to listen to programming. This Open Society Foundation, which is a network of nonprofits that George Soros laid the groundwork for back in 1984, has spent billions of dollars funding left-of-center organizations across the world, according to its website. Soros himself poured more than $32 billion into his philanthropies since 1984, when he started making these types of contributions. The Soros Network's recent string of media purchases began in 2022, when Soros Fund Management invested in an undisclosed amount into Crooked Media. It's a liberal podcast network, this according to Variety. Crooked Media hosts dozens of highly trafficked podcasts, one of those being Pod Save America. Now, again, these happen to be more liberal-leaning podcast and media outlets. Soros Fund Management's investment bought a seat on the board of directors as a result of their purchasing not a majority interest, but a large interest in Crooked Media. He's trying to do the same thing now with other media companies. Crooked Media wasn't Soros's only investment in audio in 2022. Lakestar Finance, which is an investment firm where Soros Fund Management serves as the principal investment manager, also financed Latino Media Network's $60 million purchase of 18 Spanish-language stations operating across the country, including the conservative radio Mambi in Florida. So he's trying to influence Hispanic-speaking stations as well. Some of the Spanish-speaking radio hosts impacted by the purchase eventually left their shows, saying that they had editorial disagreements with the new ownership, according to the New York Post. So evidently, Soros's management team was trying to dictate some of the things that they would air. The Soros Network's most recent move into audio was in February, when the Soros Fund Management acquired over $400 million worth of debt owed by Odyssey. Odyssey is the nation's second largest network of radio stations. Again, you could potentially be listening to an Odyssey station right now. Odyssey has a great foothold in conservative talk radio. The debt has since been converted into equity as part of the corporate restructuring plan of Odyssey, making Soros Fund Management one of Odyssey's largest shareholders. Is that concerning to you? That George Soros is spending millions and millions of dollars buying interest in media companies, primarily audio, radio, podcast? 3 people who have been involved in the discussions with Soros say that the acquisitions could be part of a larger push to try to control audio-based media. Soros Fund Management, for instance, has privately discussed acquiring Cumulus Media, which is also a radio network, operates 403 networks, stations, and reaches 250 million people every month. And again, a lot of the talk radio stations that Cumulus owns are conservative talk. Is this concerning? 800-655-6453. Should someone like George Soros be allowed to purchase large portions of these media companies and potentially control what you hear every day? It's certainly one way to try to influence elections, isn't it? If you eliminate conservative talk radio. Or if you don't eliminate it, maybe you tone it down a bit. Maybe as with some of these Spanish-speaking stations, some of the hosts left because they had editorial differences.